Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand.
Me and him split everything. We started yesterday.
Get your hands dirty for a change. Do some welding and grinding instead of watching everybody else do it.
Every bike that needs to get built gets done. Everybody's working at all times. And you know what? 10 years, this is the kind of stuff we've been dealing with for 10 years.
The story of Paul Teutul Jr. is often remembered for loud arguments and dramatic moments on television, but the real story started long before cameras arrived. He grew up in a very different environment than most kids. While other children spent their days playing outside, watching cartoons, or riding bicycles around the neighborhood, Junior spent much of his time inside a metal workshop. His father, Paul Teutul Sr., owned a fabrication company where heavy machines, sparks, and the smell of burning metal filled the air every day. This shop later became famous through the reality show American Chopper. But in the early years, it was simply a demanding workplace where everyone had to work hard. Junior learned very early that his father expected discipline and effort. As a young boy, he swept the floors, picked up scrap metal, and watched workers weld steel pieces together. Over time, those small jobs slowly turned into real learning experiences. He began understanding how metal could be shaped and built into something useful. Even though he was still very young, he started to develop skills that many adults struggled to master. However, life in the shop was not always warm or supportive. Senior believed in strict rules and tough lessons. Praise was rare, and mistakes were often met with strong criticism. Junior grew up trying to prove himself and earn his father's respect. This environment shaped his personality and work ethic. It also created the early tension between father and son that would later become very visible to millions of viewers around the world. Those early years in the shop built the foundation of Junior's future career, but they also planted the seeds of conflict that would follow him for decades. As Paul Teutul Jr. grew older, his connection to metal work became stronger. What started as simple chores in the shop slowly turned into real skills. By his teenage years, he was no longer just watching others build things. He was learning how to weld, shape metal, and understand how machines worked. Many people who worked with him noticed that he had a natural talent. He did not just follow instructions. Instead, he started thinking creatively about how things could look and function better. This creative side was very different from the approach of his father, Paul Teutul Sr. Sr. believed in traditional methods and practical designs. His focus was on strength, durability, and getting the job done quickly. Junior, however, began to see metal as more than just material for building structures. He saw it as a way to create art. When he designed something, he thought about the shape, the style, and the overall appearance. He wanted the finished product to look impressive, not just work properly. This difference in thinking slowly created tension between them. While Senior respected hard work, he sometimes questioned Junior's focus on design and creativity. Despite these differences, Junior continued to improve his abilities through training and experience. By the time he was in his late teens, he had already earned respect from many workers in the shop. They saw that he had both technical skill and artistic vision. This rare combination would later become one of the main reasons for the success of the motorcycles built by their company. Even though Junior still wanted his father's approval, he was slowly forming his own identity as a builder and designer. In the late 1990s, the future of the Teutul family business began to change. The metal shop owned by Paul Teutul Sr. was already successful, but a new idea started growing inside the workshop. Instead of focusing only on industrial metal work, the family began exploring something more exciting: custom motorcycles. This idea eventually led to the creation of Orange County Choppers. The company quickly became known for building unique motorcycles that looked more like art pieces than simple vehicles. At the center of many of these designs was the creativity of Paul Teutul Jr. His artistic approach helped give the motorcycles a distinct look that stood out from others in the industry. Instead of building ordinary bikes, he focused on bold shapes, themed designs, and dramatic details. These designs attracted attention from customers who wanted something truly special. During this time, the relationship between father and son seemed to be working, at least on the surface. Senior managed the business side and pushed the team to work harder, while Junior led much of the design and creative process. Together, they created motorcycles that quickly gained popularity among enthusiasts. However, the partnership was not always smooth. Their personalities were very different. Senior was loud, direct, and sometimes explosive when things went wrong. Junior was quieter and more focused on the creative side of the work. These differences often caused arguments, but at the same time, they also pushed the company forward. What they did not realize was that their growing success would soon attract the attention of television producers, and that attention would change their lives forever. Everything changed when a reality television series American Chopper premiered in 2003. The show followed the daily activities of Orange County choppers and quickly became one of the most popular reality shows on television. Viewers were fascinated not only by the custom motorcycles, but also by the strong personalities inside the shop. At the center of the show were the constant disagreements between Paul Teutul Sr. and Paul Teutul Jr. Their arguments were loud, emotional, and sometimes shocking. While some viewers found these moments uncomfortable, others felt they made the show exciting and real. The show turned the small workshop into a tourist attraction. Fans traveled from different places just to see the famous bikes and meet the people they watched on television. For Junior, the sudden fame was both exciting and stressful. On one hand, millions of viewers were now seeing his creative work and admiring the motorcycles he helped design. On the other hand, the cameras captured every argument and mistake inside the shop. Private family disagreements were now public entertainment. The pressure of deadlines for television episodes also made the work environment more intense. Every build had to be finished quickly so it could appear on the show. This constant pressure made the relationship between father and son even more difficult. What once had been normal workplace disagreements slowly turned into explosive fights. Although the show brought fame and financial success, it also placed a heavy emotional burden on the entire family. One of the reasons American Chopper became so popular was the incredible motorcycles created by the team at Orange County Choppers. Many of these builds became iconic and are still remembered today. A large part of their success came from the creative ideas of Paul Teutul Jr. He believed that every motorcycle should tell a story. Instead of simply building a bike for transportation, he designed machines that represented themes, companies, or special events. One of the most emotional builds was a tribute motorcycle created after the tragic events of the September 11th attacks. Parts of the bike included steel from the World Trade Center site, making the motorcycle a powerful symbol of remembrance and strength. When the finished bike was revealed, many people were deeply moved by its meaning. Moments like these showed that Junior's creativity went beyond simple design. He understood how to use metal and machinery to express emotion and history. Other famous builds, such as a Black Widow bike, also demonstrated his ability to turn bold ideas into real machines. These motorcycles helped build the reputation of the company and attracted even more attention from fans and clients. However, while the bikes brought praise and admiration, they also increased tension inside the shop. As more people recognized Junior's talent, the balance of power within the business began to shift. This change created even more conflict between him and his father. As the popularity of American Chopper continued to grow, the relationship between Paul Teutul Jr. and Paul Teutul Sr. became more unstable. The arguments that viewers saw on television were not just part of the show. Many of them reflected real frustration that had been building for years. Sr. expected total loyalty and discipline from everyone in the shop, especially from his son. Junior, however, wanted more creative freedom and respect for his ideas. These differences slowly pushed them further apart. By the late 2000s, the tension had reached a breaking point. One major argument became especially intense and ended with Junior being fired from the company. The moment shocked fans because it showed just how serious the conflict had become. After spending so many years helping build the company, Junior suddenly found himself without a place in the business. The firing did not just affect their work relationship. It deeply damaged their personal connection as father and son. What had once been a partnership built on shared goals had now turned into a painful separation. The situation quickly moved beyond arguments and entered the world of legal disputes. Lawsuits and business conflicts followed, creating an even larger divide between them. For viewers who had followed their journey on television, it was heartbreaking to see the family fall apart in such a public way. After leaving Orange County Choppers, many people wondered what the future would look like for Paul Teutul Jr. Despite the difficult situation, he decided to start a new chapter in his life. Instead of giving up on his passion for motorcycles, he created his own company called Paul Jr. Designs. At first, the business began in a very small workspace, far from the busy television studio environment he had once known. However, Jr.'s reputation as a talented designer helped attract attention quickly. Some former co-workers who believed in his vision decided to join him in the new company. Together, they began building motorcycles that continue to showcase his creative style. Television networks were also interested in the story of his new journey, which led to spin-off shows that followed his efforts to build a new brand. Although the rivalry between his company and his father's business created dramatic television moments, Jr. focused on moving forward. He wanted to prove that he could succeed on his own terms. Starting a new company was not easy. There were financial risks, business challenges, and emotional pressure from the ongoing conflict with his family. Yet these struggles also helped him grow stronger as both a designer and a business owner. Over time, the personal life of Paul Teutul Jr. began to change in important ways. Marriage and the birth of his son gave him a new perspective on family and responsibility. Becoming a father made him think deeply about the difficult relationship he had experienced with his own father, Paul Teutul Sr. He started reflecting on the past and considering what kind of parent he wanted to be. While business success remained important, he also began focusing more on personal growth and faith. These changes helped him find a sense of balance that had been missing during the stressful years of television fame and family conflict. Although some attempts were made to repair the relationship between father and son, true reconciliation remained difficult. Years of arguments, legal battles, and public drama had created wounds that were not easy to heal. Even when they appeared together for special television events or motorcycle build competitions, it was clear that the past still affected their interactions. Despite this, Jr. continued to focus on building a stable life for his own family and maintaining the company he had worked so hard to create. Today, the story of Paul Teutul Jr. and Paul Teutul Sr. remains one of the most talked about family conflicts in reality television history. Their journey from working together in a small shop to becoming famous through American Chopper captured the attention of millions of viewers. However, the fame also exposed the deep struggles within their relationship. In recent years, both men have continued living separate lives and focusing on their own projects. Jr. has remained active in the custom motorcycle world and continues to design unique machines through his company. At the same time, he has begun sharing more openly about his experiences and the challenges he faced while working in his father's business. Reports about a future memoir suggest that he may reveal even more details about what really happened behind the scenes of the famous television show. For fans who followed the story for years, the possibility of hearing his full perspective has created strong interest. The legacy of the Teutul family is complicated. It includes creativity, business success, television fame, and also deep personal pain. The story of Paul Teutul Jr. is not only about motorcycles or television fame. It is also a story about family, pride, ambition, and the difficult process of growing beyond painful experiences. His journey from a young boy sweeping metal scraps in his father's shop to becoming a well-known motorcycle designer shows how talent and determination can shape a person's future. At the same time, the long and complicated conflict with Paul Teutul Sr. shows how success does not always bring happiness or peace. The rise of Orange County choppers and the huge popularity of American Chopper created opportunities that most builders could only dream about. The company became a global brand, and the custom motorcycles built there inspired a new generation of designers and mechanics. Many fans began building or customizing their own bikes because they were inspired by what they saw on the show. Jr.'s creative approach helped change how people viewed custom motorcycles. Instead of being just machines, the bikes became artistic expressions that could represent companies, historical events, or personal stories. Yet the success of the show also showed the darker side of fame. Private family struggles were turned into public entertainment, and the pressure of constant filming made normal disagreements feel even more intense. For Jr., the experience became a powerful life lesson. It taught him the importance of independence, patience, and emotional strength. Even though the relationship with his father remains complicated, he has continued building his own path and focusing on his family and business. Today, his story reminds many people that success is not only measured by money or fame, Sometimes a real victory is learning from the past and choosing to move forward with wisdom and resilience. For many fans of American Chopper, the relationship between Paul Teutul Jr. and Paul Teutul Sr. became one of the most unforgettable parts of the series. Their arguments were not small disagreements. They were loud, emotional confrontations that often happened right in front of the cameras. Sometimes tools were thrown, voices were raised, and workers in the shop would quietly step back while the father and son clashed. For television producers, these moments created dramatic scenes that kept viewers watching week after week. But for the Teutul family, the reality was much more painful. These were not actors performing a script. These were real people struggling with years of frustration and misunderstandings. The show made their personal problems visible to millions of viewers around the world. Some fans supported Jr. and believed he deserved more respect for his creative work. Others sided with Sr., arguing that his strict leadership style built the company from the ground up. This divided opinion only added more pressure to an already difficult situation. In many ways, the success of the show made reconciliation harder. Every disagreement was replayed, discussed online, and analyzed by fans and media outlets. The family conflict slowly turned into a public feud that felt impossible to escape. Even when the cameras were off, the tension remained. For Jr., this constant attention made it difficult to move forward emotionally, yet it also showed him how deeply the show had connected with viewers. People were not just watching motorcycles being built. They were watching a real family struggle with pride, expectations, and the challenges of working together. This complicated mix of entertainment and reality is one reason the story of the Teutul family still fascinates audiences today. Despite the many challenges he faced, Paul Teutul Jr. continued to focus on building a future that was different from the past. Running his own company gave him the freedom to express his creativity without constant conflict. Through Paul Jr. Designs, he was able to create motorcycles that reflected his personal style and artistic vision. Many of these builds continued to attract attention from fans who had followed his journey since the early days of American Chopper. At the same time, Jr. became more open about the lessons he had learned from the difficult relationship with Paul Teutul Sr. Instead of focusing only on the anger and disagreements, he began speaking about growth, forgiveness, and the importance of breaking negative patterns. Becoming a husband and father helped him see life from a new perspective. He wanted to create a family environment that felt supportive and stable, something he sometimes felt was missing in his own childhood. Even though the past could never be completely erased, he chose to use those experiences as motivation rather than resentment. The story of his life continues to interest fans because it is not just about motorcycles or television drama. It is about a person trying to find balance between ambition, creativity, and family. While the future relationship between father and son remains uncertain, Jr.'s journey shows that it is possible to move forward even after painful conflict. His story reminds people that success is not only about building a famous company or appearing on television. True